I was born in the city of Tus, the second city of Khorasan, after Nishapur, in the year 450 A. Even as a child, I was drawn to learning. I began with the study of jurisprudence, fiqh, and the fundamentals of the religious sciences. I memorized, I questioned, I reflected, and I felt the hunger for knowledge that never left me. I traveled to Nishapur, seeking the guidance of Imam al-Haramain al-Juwayni under his tutelage. I devoted myself to rigorous study. I strove earnestly, with perseverance and sincerity. By God's grace, I graduated after a remarkably brief period. Yet I was not content with mere graduation. I emerged among my peers as someone discerning, attentive, and diligent. I began teaching and guiding students, even while my teacher lived. I authored works, small at first, yet filled with the striving of my heart. My teacher praised me openly and held my closeness in high regard. This early recognition humbled me, and yet it inspired me to pursue further excellence. My early career. After my time in Nishapur, I entered the assembly of Nizam al-Mulk, the vizier. There, I devoted myself to scholarship and debate, and I attained a position of prominence due to my understanding and clarity of argument. The assembly gathered scholars of renown, those who had dedicated their lives to the pursuit of knowledge. It was a place where I could test myself, refine my reasoning, and demonstrate the depth of my learning. Through debates and discussions, I gained recognition, and my reputation began to spread beyond Nishapur. Nizam al-Mulk then appointed me to teach at the famous Al-Nizamiya in Baghdad. There, my lectures and debates were well received. I became known as the Imam of Iraq, having already been recognized as the Imam of Khorasan. Even princes, viziers, and men of high status regarded my scholarship and sought my guidance. Yet, amid these honors, I began to contemplate the impermanence of worldly rank and recognition. I realized that fame, wealth, and influence could never satisfy the longing of the soul. All worldly accomplishments are fleeting, and they cannot bring peace to the heart. Turning away from worldly life, I left Baghdad despite my high rank. I sought a life devoted to God, to the cultivation of my soul, and to sincere reflection. I traveled to Damascus, residing there briefly, and then journeyed to Jerusalem. It was in Jerusalem that I began composing my monumental work, Ihya Ulum al-Din, the revival of religious sciences. At the same time, I disciplined my character, refined my habits, and purged my soul of worldly distractions. I abandoned the pursuit of rank, wealth, and acclaim. I embraced simplicity, humility, and devotion. I established endowments to guide others toward the hereafter, and I welcomed anyone who displayed insight or who carried the fragrance of gnosis, the awareness of the divine. Eventually, I returned to my homeland. I lived in seclusion, reflecting upon the heart, the mind, and the soul. I managed my time with extraordinary diligence. I devoted myself fully to study, teaching, and writing. The purpose of my writings. Through my works, I sought to reconcile the outer practice of religion with the inner cultivation of the soul. Knowledge without piety is hollow, and devotion without understanding is blind. In Ihya Ulum al-Din, I wrote about acts of worship, social obligations, virtues, and vices. I taught that prayer, fasting, and remembrance of God are not merely rituals. They are opportunities to cultivate sincerity, humility, and moral refinement. I warned against anger, pride, and envy. I encouraged patience, honesty, and generosity. Every act, when performed with reflection and devotion, becomes a means to draw closer to God. This is the essence of my philosophy. Knowledge must transform the soul, not merely inform the mind. On philosophy and reason, I studied philosophy deeply, particularly the works of Avicenna and other thinkers. Their logic was compelling, their reasoning meticulous. Yet, I realized that reason alone is insufficient to attain certainty about the soul and God. It illuminates some truths, yes, but it cannot guide the heart entirely. For this reason, I wrote Tahafut al-Falasifa, The Incoherence of the Philosophers. I engaged with philosophers who questioned resurrection, creation, and the immortality of the soul. My aim was not to reject reason, but to show its limits and to demonstrate that revelation and spiritual insight must guide rational inquiry. Reason is a lamp, yes, but it requires the oil of revelation to shine fully. Without it, the lamp may burn dim or even mislead. My understanding of knowledge, in my view, there are three sources of knowledge: the senses, our perception of the physical world; intellect, our reasoning, reflection, and critical thinking; divine revelation, Wahi, the eternal truths revealed by God. Each of these has its role. The senses allow us to navigate the material world. Reason allows us to interpret, analyze, and refine our understanding. But only revelation illuminates what lies beyond time and space. To truly know God, one must use all three: observe, reason, and then submit to the truth revealed by God. On the resurrection and the hereafter, I disagreed with philosophers who claimed that the body would not be resurrected. Scientists, including myself, affirm the resurrection of both body and soul. The human being, after death, enters the realm of Barzakh, the intermediate world. There, the soul perceives pleasure and pain. Even if the physical body is no longer present, the experience is real, yet different from earthly perception. Much like a vivid dream, on the day of judgment, the soul and body are reunited. The righteous will experience the perfection of the body, according to their deeds. The wicked, likewise, will bear the consequences of their actions. Time, space, and perception in the hereafter differ from the earthly realm. Human capacities will be heightened, and the soul will perceive truths inaccessible to ordinary senses. All of this is known through authentic revelation and the teachings of the Prophet. My legacy and approach throughout my life, I have sought balance between outward law and inner devotion, between reason and faith, between scholarship and the refinement of character. I taught, I wrote, and I guided those who sought knowledge. I engaged philosophers in debate, but I also embraced mysticism. I criticized only where reason was misused, and I emphasized that knowledge must always serve the soul and the pursuit of God. I have faced misunderstanding, yes. Some have claimed contradictions in my writings or questioned my positions. Yet I have always adhered to the principles of Sunni epistemology, recognizing the primacy of revelation and the proper use of reason and sensory observation. A final reflection: seek knowledge, yes, but let it illuminate the soul. Reflect on your actions, purify your heart, and cultivate virtue. Engage the mind, but never neglect the heart. Use reason to understand the world, but submit to revelation to understand the eternal. The ultimate purpose of life is the pursuit of God. Every act, every thought, every intention must serve this aim. This has been my path, my work, and my guidance to those who seek. May those who read or hear my words find illumination. May they cultivate sincerity, humility, and devotion. And may they journey ever closer to the truth, the eternal, and the divine.